Good morning, Bitcoins, and welcome to MadBitcoins Live. We've got a very special guest all the way from Keene, New Hampshire, Derrick J. Freeman. How's it going, Derrick?
Hey, MadBitcoins. It is so good to be with you in studio.
It's great to have you out here on the left coast. You finally made it to California. Now, as many people had heard, Derrick J. was unwilling to travel. He didn't like the TSA getting all on his junk. But obviously, you changed your mind. So tell us about what's been going on. What changed your mind? Why did you come to California finally?
Well, you're familiar with the Porcupine Freedom Festival. You attended last year.
Absolutely, in New Hampshire.
Quite famously took some videos for the World Crypto Network and toured with Chris Ellis of Feathercoin. It was a real fun time, and I'm sure you would agree that it's a very special event, filled with special people. And I met one such special person while there and was so enthralled I had to go visit. I was invited to fly out, so that's what I did. And I haven't flown in, gosh, it's been almost a decade, because I heard that the TSA was touching people in inappropriate places. And
you didn't line up? You weren't like, me, next. No.
I thought about it, as some activism. I saw some other people undressing and video recording themselves. I thought that might be fun.
Actually, I think I've seen a video of you almost undressed, parading around an airport with another lady in a bikini, something like that.
Yeah.
I recall the bikini.
Yeah, people can find that video free online at victimlesscrimespree.com. I did dress down to my underwear and hand out some information about flying the TSA. And yeah, I'm against it. I want people to opt out, and so I'm going to practice what I preach. And when I went through the TSA this time, I politely, respectfully declined the backscatter machine or whatever it was that people were going in and putting their hands in the surrender position and then walking through. And instead of doing that, I said, no thank you, I'd prefer to not do that. And so they said that the only other option was to be touched by a government agent. So I complied with that, and the man who pat me down was polite, respectful enough. I generally would prefer that strangers not touch me on private places in my bathing suit area. But if that's his job and that's what he has to do, and this is the only way that I can fly, we're both sort of under duress in this situation. And so it worked out. It was okay. I recorded the entire thing. I got some audio. And on the TSA's website, for those who want to do the same, it does clearly state that you are allowed to record the entire process. So if they're telling you to put down your phone, which I was told, you can politely decline that as well.
I remember Andreas Antonopoulos went through security and filmed the entire thing. He put his phone on the conveyor belt. We get to see inside the machine, all of that. So it is very important, and I agree with you. I do opt out when I go to the airport. They've gotten rid of most of the backscatter radiation machines, which were the old ones, which I felt really bad for the TSA agents who had to stand next to that. I'd tell them every time, I'd be like, if I was you, I'd get a radiation badge, da-da-da-da-da. They'd laugh at me. I feel sad for them. But the new one is called the millimeter wave scanner, and it actually produces a naked picture of your body, and then they blur it out a little bit. But that one also has what some say to be unhealthy radiation and a cancer possibility. But for me, it was really what you described earlier, being to put in the surrender position with your hands behind your head. And I was reminded a lot of the movie Fifth Element, and they're robbing his house, and he has to put his hands in these circles, and it's a complete loss of control. And I don't think that's a fair trade-off for flying around the country. I see a lot of businessmen who have paid to skip the line. A lot of us aren't rich enough to pay to skip the line. We don't travel that often. But it is a very unfair situation, and it doesn't really stop anything. But.
Yeah, well, what I found, though, Mad, is that I was losing out. I was the one who was the sucker here, because I wasn't willing to make this trade-off in order to experience the whole world. And how dare I allow these government agents that sort of power over me? I'm willing to make that trade today because I think that the things out in the world are worth it.
Absolutely.
How dare they, I should say, put me in that position, first of all. But then, I'm always the one in control. So
and that's always true for a lot of things like privacy, security. For the longest time, I didn't join Facebook. And what that meant that as all of my friends kept giving over their address books to Facebook, Facebook had a little spot where it knew that I fit. It knew that I was friends with Jim and Jenny and Fred and all these people. And they knew that, and they were benefiting from that. Whereas I, not being part of the network, I wasn't getting Jenny's friend update. I wasn't getting Fred's new pictures. I was actually missing out. So eventually a friend of mine went on a trip to Europe, and the only way to follow his trip was Facebook, where he was putting his photos up. So I joined. Every day I got an update of what he was doing, more great photos, exciting. Europe sounds really great. I haven't been yet, but I'm always glad to look at photos. And pretty much after that, I was pretty heavily addicted to Facebook until now, and still now. So it's just how it happens. You have to make choices. You have to I was a big fan of Richard Stallman for a long time, and Stallman teaches you about privacy and open source and true security and owning your software, the Free Software Foundation. But he's also a hardliner. Stallman won't bend or break. Stallman, he uses an old command line system. He won't use Mac OS. He doesn't like convenient, easy to use things. And having that kind of negativity really held me back for a while, of not being able to do anything, not being able to use Facebook. So it's gotten a lot better since then.
I want to talk about Bitcoin adoption.
All right. What's going on?
I just witnessed merchant adoption of Bitcoin right here at 20 Mission, where we're doing this recording in San Francisco, where surprisingly not all merchants accept Bitcoin yet.
Not yet. She's new.
So, no, not just in this location, but I mean on all of San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. San Francisco is surprisingly thin on the Bitcoin adoption. They've had several great programs. Snapcard tried. I know BitPay is trying. Other people have tried to get merchants, but even here in the tech capital of the world, we can't seem to get that much traction.
It was very easy and quick. It took about 5 minutes from beginning to end of hearing about Bitcoin to having a Bitcoin payment received on the merchant's phone. It was as simple as downloading a free wallet. She chose Mycelium, but there are many others. And she was walked through the process by another merchant who had just learned about accepting Bitcoin. And then finally she said, well, what do I do with it? It can be converted to cash, or she could hold it, or alternatively, it was proposed that she spend it at purse.io for a savings on Amazon. She decided to save it and maybe turn around and spend it on one of the various products that are available right here at 20 Mission.
Very cool. And what's great about this merchant is, remember, sometimes you aren't the one to convince them, but I saw a few days ago the Life on Bitcoin people were here with me, and they talked to this merchant. They talked to her husband, actually, and they tried to convince him, and they planted the seeds. And a few days later, her husband came to me, and he bought an item off Purse. I helped him. And now Derrick has convinced his wife to accept Bitcoin. So remember, it's all these little steps. Their step help, my step help. Derrick's the one that gets all the credit.
No, it wasn't me. I have to give credit where it's due. It was my friend Steven who actually signed them up. And he said it was his first merchant that he had ever signed up. It was a natural at it. And just to show you that you don't have to be an expert at this. I know that there are people who do get paid to do this sort of thing and introduce merchants to accepting Bitcoin. But if you're a Bitcoiner and you're frustrated like I am with the low number of merchants that currently accept it, go out there and do the street evangelism yourself. Go offer some Bitcoin to somebody for something that you want and see what happens.
Remember, it's all about spending. If we can spend the Bitcoin, if you can trade it to someone else for a good, it's useful, it's currency. If it's online, if it's offline, we just need people to spend it. So, and if you do convince a merchant to take Bitcoin and you live in that area, you can go back there closely, become a regular at that business. Buy a coffee there every morning. Come back and buy another nice thing a few months from now. Save up your money, don't waste all your money on things, but support these merchants, because it does no good to just have them accept it and then have no one shop there.
Another tip about introducing new merchants to Bitcoin is what I've noticed over the years, getting people signed up and getting them some Bitcoin wallets, is the most likely candidate is a small business owner, someone who's independent and they can make all of the business decisions right there on the spot. So if they are just being introduced to Bitcoin in your local grocery store, it's a bigger business, they might not be as flexible and willing to accept it on the spot. But right here, we had a Bitcoin merchant adoption within 5 minutes.
And that's because they were talking to the boss. She owns her own shop, she makes her own stuff, and she's the one that makes the decisions. And when we were watching the recent Life on Bitcoin movie, they went to a farmer's market. And I think that's a really good tip for anybody out there. Everyone at the farmer's market is pretty much their own boss. They brought their produce there in a truck. They brought it from their own farm. They're looking to sell it. And if you'll give them crazy internet money, they might take it for $5-10 here or there. And the Life on Bitcoin movie, they were very successful. So, Derrick, I know you got to go to the screening. What did you think of the Life on Bitcoin movie, the Internet Archive?
It was terrific. First of all, I was blown away by the existence of the Internet Archive, which has apparently been around since 1996. It's the home of the Wayback Machine, which is an invaluable service to the world. So I'm just so grateful that the Internet Archive exists and thrives here in San Francisco.
And what's so great about the archive, you think of it as just a computer, because that's all you really need for the Wayback Machine, but they've actually got an old Christian Science church that looks like a Greek temple. Columns, steps, marble, the whole thing. It's a beautiful place. It looks like the Internet Archive should look. It looks like a library. It's amazing.
In fact, the man who led the tour said that they purchased the building that they're currently housed in because it looked like their logo, which predates the building that they're in.
That's so funny because I'd always seen their logo and I always thought of it as kind of a joke, like, oh, Internet Archive, yeah, it's in a fancy building like that. Until I came here like a year ago, I had no idea they actually had a building that matched their logo. That's a little bit of that secret stuff there, right? You put what you want up on a board, pretty soon you're living in that nice house, just positive thinking, right? And action, positive thinking and action. But
the Internet Archive, we should mention, does accept Bitcoin donations. So if you're grateful for their work, why don't you go send them some?
Absolutely.
I heard that they give it out to some of their employees as the Christmas bonus was entirely in Bitcoin. And they've been saving some for a while, so it seems like they've done pretty well.
Did you get to go on the tour at the archive?
I did, yeah.
What'd you think?
It was very special. I took pictures, so those of you who follow me on Facebook can see what I saw. And it was a very simple operation. There's not much to it besides a few petabytes and pews. I mean, they retain the pews of this church, and that's actually where we watched the movie Life on Bitcoin, which, by the way, is that available online? Is that
not
free
yet?
for
They're
people
doing
to watch?
premieres in certain cities, and then eventually they're going to release it on iTunes, all the various platforms, and certainly at least one platform for Bitcoin. They're very much focused on that.
Well, I give it a strong recommendation. If you were on the fence about checking this movie out, definitely see it. If you're a Bitcoiner, you're going to want to see what it's like for people who made the very difficult choice in 2013 to live their life entirely on Bitcoin, sacrificing their relationships sometimes with their parents who wanted to feed them because it can be truly very difficult. And those of you who have tried to do this know. Sometimes businesses just say no. And then what do you do if you want to eat? Fortunately, we have things like Gift today where we can buy Whole Foods gift cards and spend Bitcoin. I don't know any other food.
Well, and you've got that crazy little credit card you can send Bitcoin in. Don't show the numbers on the screen, but tell the people what website they should go to get this little credit card. It has a QR code.
I want to show it anyway.
From what Derrick's telling me, well, don't show the numbers.
I'll be careful.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of the greatest inventions, and I think a few others have existed in the past but may have been shut down, but this one exists today. We are recording this on late July 2015, so I'll cover up the numbers here, but this is a WageCan card, and it looks like a regular credit card, and it is a regular credit card. It's a MasterCard, and it's accepted everywhere internationally. But what's different is you see a QR code here at the top of this card. There's another one on the back, and you can use that QR code to fund the card with Bitcoins. And when you want to spend those Bitcoins, you can do that just as simply as swiping at any merchant that accepts MasterCard internationally. You can also take out cash from an ATM. They give you an ATM PIN number. So if you're someone who struggles with turning your Bitcoins into cash or into real goods that you can bring home, check out WageCan. This is not a paid advertisement. I just think that they are doing some of the greatest work for Bitcoin merchant adoption. Now, one of the downsides of this is that you don't have to talk to your merchants about accepting Bitcoin, which I still think you should do. But this is a sort of last resort option.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people have trouble converting Bitcoin to cash. They have to go to local Bitcoins. They have to meet people. And sometimes you can do it online. But it is a problem, and it does sound like that credit card WageCan would help out with that problem.
It's based in Hong Kong. and it requires photo ID, proof of address through a bill, and $15. That's it.
Piece of cake.
Anyway, I think that's pretty cool. Merchant adoption is the thing, and let's get San Francisco to have more merchants than New Hampshire. I think you could do a little bit better than our state of 1.3 million.
Come on, San Francisco, get out there, work in teams, ask the merchants to accept it, leave behind some flyers. I'm going to work on some new flyers. We'll see. I'll give you a shot, but yeah.
I say focus on the independent business owners. There are plenty of them out here. We're in the mission. You think that the people out here are independent business owners? Like, most of them. If you're talking to the high-powered people who have huge companies and departments, then you're talking to the wrong people.
Yeah.
You want to start low, and it'll grow from there. That's where I see Bitcoin going.
And I really think we should change all the cash-only signs to cash and Bitcoin only. Because that's what they want. They want a fluid, useful form of money that they can own that's much like cash. And I'm sure they want to take credit cards, but they don't want chargebacks. They don't want to pay Visa all their money. They want Bitcoin. They just haven't heard of it yet. You could be the one that tells them. And remember, even if it doesn't work when you tell them, someone else will tell them, someone else will tell them. And after they've heard it from 2 or 3 people, they'll be a little more open. They'll probably give it a try.
Hey, I'm in the mood for sushi. Is there a place around here that takes Bitcoin for sushi?
There's actually one near the Internet Archive. It's Brewster Kale's favorite restaurant, Sake Zone. And it's the same place that Kashmir Hill had her little party after she lived on Bitcoin for a week a few years ago.
Perfect.
Could be really cool. So I guess that's about it for this interview. Derrick, anything else you'd like to say while we're here, live in San Francisco?
No, just remember to always be free.
And spend Bitcoin. Bye-bye.